and welcome back to the library. This time I'm going to be going over what I've read in the month of March, which was a little while ago. But as my last video told you, things have been a little hectic and a little bit crazy, and I'm just now getting around to it. But we have 3 books to go over, so let's jump into it. Book number 1, Alice B. Toklas's Cookbook. So I think it was the last monthly reads video I did. I talked about Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas because Stein wrote the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. But this is her actual work. It's a cookbook filled with little vignettes of Alice's life, and she matches different events and different people and that sort of thing with food. So it's very much befitting of a woman who chose to spend the rest of her life in France, despite her American origins. It was a really interesting look as well into Toklas herself, considering we get what Gertrude Stein feels is Alice B. Toklas in the autobiography, but we don't hear what Alice herself has to say, like in her own words. I kind of skipped over the recipes. You could try them. I mean, it's good to remember the fact that this was done in the early 20th century, so a lot of the recipes would need to be adapted for modern times. But I know for a fact that someone in my class tried the hot chocolate recipe that's in here, so they said it was good. I haven't tried any. But yeah, the book itself was very interesting. It also caused quite a controversy when it first came out, because she had a recipe for pot brownies, basically, in her book, and when it was published in America, it originally had the recipe taken out, so later copies returned the recipe back in to complete the book. So, it was an interesting read, especially if you were following up with stuff about Toklas and Stein from the last book. Next, A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. I went into this with kind of mixed feelings because, let me say, Hemingway and I have a love-hate relationship, okay? I admire him as an amazing writer. I can learn from his work, and I am impressed by it. However, I don't like it. I've never really liked it. And so coming into this, I was kind of prepared for that. And actually, upon completing it, I have the intention of going back and reading Hemingway's work again, because I think I now have a better understanding of him and can better appreciate his work as a whole. It's written after Hemingway had suffered some electric shock therapy, and it had started to affect his brain. And as a creator, of course, that's honestly your worst nightmare, is not being able to create anymore. And Hemingway recognized the fact that he wouldn't be able to write much longer, so he wrote this. And it was never actually completed. In fact, the title itself wasn't Hemingway's choice. His wife chose it upon editing and releasing this book, so it was released posthumously. And he killed himself before the book was fully completed. It's just a little series of vignettes. It's not a cohesive story, not really. It's just little snippets from his time in Paris, which he held dearly in his heart. And I liked this a lot because it gave me more insight into Hemingway himself, you know, who he really was. Because of course we have the Hemingway from his work, from his stories, the super macho man, the misogynistic twat. And I always just assumed that that's all there was to him, which is a very dumb blanket statement, you know. Of course people are very multi-dimensional. So I enjoyed seeing more into who Hemingway really is. And the book is laid out the way that it seemed he originally had it laid out, but there are in the back little stories that he had cut out and he decided he didn't want to use in the book. Some of the stories have alternate endings at the end, and it was actually his grandson who put the restored edition together. Hemingway's wife, when she released the book with their editor, it was put however she saw fit, basically. You know, she named it, she put everything wherever she wanted it to. And his grandson came back and did the restored edition, putting it the way that Hemingway himself originally seemed to have wanted, keeping in mind the fact that the book itself was never finished. I really enjoyed it. I actually, for my class, I rewrote one of the little vignettes, because we had the option of doing like a discussion post or just rewriting one of these little stories from a different perspective. So I rewrote, I think it was The New School, I don't know. It's one of the extra stories in the back, and I rewrote it from the point of view of a waiter. And I'm actually really proud of it. I would like to do something with it, but I'm not sure what I can do, considering I changed pretty much everything except for the dialogue. I left Hemingway's original dialogue and added a few more pieces of my own. And I'm not sure how, like, I would go about putting that out in the world. I mean, clearly it can be done. I have several rewrites, you know, different retellings of stories behind me here. So, I don't know. Keep an eye out. I might find a way to release it into the world, because it was a lot of fun. I think it turned out pretty good, too, which is exciting because I'm terrible at short stories. Anyway, I would highly recommend this, not only because it's interesting and has like a lot of neat little stories to it, but if you're like me and you have a difficult relationship with Ernest Hemingway, I think reading this might give you the same bit of insight that it gave me. A new appreciation, if you will, for the great Ernest Hemingway. And lastly, Octavia Butler's Fledgling. Now, this is my second encounter with Butler. I read Kindred for a previous class, and I absolutely loved it. That is an amazing book. Fledgling I didn't like quite as much. Butler does what Butler does best, and she attacks a lot of big issues, predominantly race and women's issues. She has some age discussions, a lot of sexuality discussions within this novel, and it's a hard novel to categorize. My only issue with it is the ending, because she introduced so many big issues, and she tackles them so well throughout the novel. And it's like the ending, it just kind of drops off. It's like she doesn't continue the power she has throughout the beginning, middle, and last couple of pages of this entire novel. Just the very end of it just kind of slips. Fledgling is different in the fact that it takes a lot of classic tropes and flips them. I don't want to give too much away. If you read the back cover of the book, it's going to tell you all of the biggest secrets of this novel, which I absolutely hate the fact that it does that, but I don't want to be the one to tell you. But suffice it to say, if you know anything about Butler's work, a lot of times it includes supernatural or mostly supernatural elements. And so this one does have some supernatural tropes in it, but like I said, she takes these well-worn traditional ideas that we all know what to expect from it, and she just completely changes them. You know, it's the same trope, it follows the same exact pattern, but with entirely new elements that give it new life and a bit of surprise. So I like the fact that she did that with this novel. I like the messages that she sends. I don't know, it's still a very powerful novel, but it's not Kindred. But if you haven't read Kindred, I highly recommend. This is still a great novel. I guess I need to stop comparing it to Kindred. I'm pretty sure this was her last piece, and so Kindred and the others, of course, were before it. And I just think it wasn't as good. Still very, very good. Still very powerful. Still moving in a way, but I don't think I had the same connection that I did to Kindred, which could also be because of the fact that I took notes on this book before I read it, so I did have a little bit of an idea of what was going on. And like I said, if you read the back of it, spoils everything. So don't read the back of it, okay? If you want to read this book, just get it and read it. Just ignore the entire back, because then you're gonna actually get the full effect of the novel. Because she writes it in a way that you bond with the main character before you truly know who she is. So by the time things are explained to you, and maybe if they had been explained right off the bat, you might not have had that same connection with her. By the time those things are explained, you already have that bond in place, and so you're more likely to stay on her side. And it's interesting from the point of view of a writer, because what she does is she, in a way, forces a bond between the reader and the main character, and then introduces elements that would normally make a reader kind of balk a little bit or move back a little from the main character, but you can't, because you've already formed that bond together. It's really impressive, honestly, to kind of manipulate your reader like that. And I don't think I got the full effect of it, because I was aware of what the secrets were. I was aware of what Butler was hiding from me, if you will. So don't look up anything if you want to read this book. Don't learn anything about it. Just pick it up and read it, because it's gonna give you a better experience with it. Even though it wasn't necessarily my favorite by Butler, still very, very good. And I might link Kindred down below as well, just because that blew me away, absolutely. If you wanted the perfect first introduction to Butler, I think Kindred is the way to go. So yeah, that is everything. That is all 3 books that I read in March. I have 3 more coming up for April, which is also a little late, but that's okay. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys check out some of these books. If you do, let me know down in the comments below how you liked them, or if you've already read some and you want to talk about it, let me know then too. If you enjoyed also my monthly read video, please give it a like and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys very soon. Goodbye.